Hello yet again. This particular video is perhaps the most difficult of them. As a disclaimer or along the lines of explanation, two in one. A general disclaimer. I plan on uploading this video towards tangible material gain. That is my conscious motivation, perhaps only motivation at the time of recording. The second disclaimer is that this is hopefully not too sensitive nor provocative, but I plan on discussing some ideas or perhaps convictions regarding life, faith, and not to use other words or synonyms, perhaps. Life and faith, life and death. Having said that, I have personally not experienced life nor death. I do not recall being born in any conscious way, and I have not experienced death other than placing a beloved in the ground and being present for the birth of our two children. Absolutely remarkable experiences that go beyond words in any language. My reactions were similar in both situations of life and death that I've experienced. Very hysterical, irrational, sobbing, elated, euphoric, dismayed, disappointed, sad, depending on which of the two scenarios is being recollected or analyzed. As far as I know, when a man, occasionally a woman, discusses life and death and tells us, perhaps preaches, as might be the case right now, about life and death, there's a simple question to ask this person if one wishes to interact with this person, if one is given an opportunity to ask without being immediately ostracized and or punished. The question to the speaker is, have you experienced life or death consciously, firsthand, in person? If the person says yes, then one can perhaps lend some credence to what they're saying. If the person says indirectly or otherwise, then perhaps it's a moot point interacting or even being present as part of the audience. Now, at the outset, there's belief, and the belief is blind or semi-blind or metaphorical or literal or figurative. If one believes, one believes. There are those who seek to believe only through mathematical logic. Mathematical logic itself has its own philosophical, tautological fallacies. But some people take that as the only truth, a logical, mathematical paradigm or set of parameters. But as others have said, we are biologically constrained, and numbers on paper don't necessarily exist in the material realm. Perhaps our biology is fundamentally what constrains us in deducing, understanding, discovering numbers, and applying numbers to reality. So it can be very transcendental, perhaps even multidimensional, but as humans, it seems that in many languages, taking language as a primary cue, there's a binary that we must operate with most often than not, if not always. True and false, good and evil. And this might very well be analogous to monotheism and polytheism. Whereas in monotheism, there's one truth and there's one reality. In polytheism, there could be many. So one light bulb or many light bulbs. Perhaps many light bulbs are more illuminating. Perhaps it's too much light and somewhat blinding. Again, apologies for the excess in metaphorical device. I'm fond of metaphor, as is evident in this video and other recently uploaded videos. However, life and death, getting back to the point, what is life and what is death? And those who insist on discussing life and death as first-hand witnesses. A pinch of salt, perhaps, or we compare and contrast what they say. What they say is perhaps in print in a given script or more. Perhaps it's not in print, perhaps it's an amalgamation of many ideas, beliefs, and convictions and dogmas that are in print. Some believe that what has been printed in a specific script is the unadulterated, infinite, eternal word, sound of the one and only force or creator of everything, both visual and non-visual, both empirical and otherwise. Others believe it is largely metaphorical, yet others believe they were humans, mere mortals like you and I who were intermediaries. Others believe they were supernatural beings involved. All of this can be discussed with or without ingesting certain plants or even other materials, with or without music, with or without incense. The lists are extensive, and I do not claim to know all of them. How the discussion of life and death is manifest. There's hierarchy, there's clergy, perhaps there's none. Most often than not, as with almost anything we can discuss, men predominate disproportionately by default. If the planet is about half woman, half men, uh, women predominate in certain reproductive realities until technology changes that in the future at some point, perhaps. And men tend to dominate in many other things. In this particular field, men in most societies tend to dominate, as most societies are patriarchal, patrilineal, and so on and so forth, to use Greek terminology common to the social sciences, and I dare say to the humanities as well, and even to the laboratory sciences, the hard sciences. So discussing life and death without experiencing life and death firsthand and demonstrating, proving that you've experienced life and death on the first hand relies on words. One cannot demonstrate this mathematically, as mathematics has a very powerful standing, at least in the West, as we call it. And yet we have people, of course, who discuss life and death primarily in their sermons, in their preaching, in their lecturing, as I'm doing now. I am repeating and regurgitating what has been said and thought for eons, not providing answers. I claim not such a position, for I am a mere mortal. Perhaps tomorrow I shall be enlightened, or the recipient of an epiphany, or something along those lines. However, I claim not knowledge. I can only regurgitate certain ideas that perhaps the first men and women thought of as well, using another internal language or another internal method of thought. But again, to reiterate and to repeat, and perhaps this might eliminate many of those who insist on knowing the truth, or the truths in the plural sense. Most often than not, it is a singular sense. Hence, they preach a specific, singular, solitary, or holistic, I dare say tautological truth that they believe, the one and only truth, perhaps. They haven't experienced, to put it very lightly and simply, they haven't experienced life and death firsthand. And a person who insists that they've experienced life and death, well, a near miss, a near death experience, which I've experienced on a few occasions with, in the context of vehicles, motor vehicles to be specific. These things are relevant. Perhaps a coma, something very, very serious and profound, perhaps even prolonged, depending on the person who has experienced the situation firsthand, secondhand, directly, indirectly, how conscious were they? And of course, consciousness ties in with the soul. And there's the medical and the legal criteria deciding how conscious you are. For example, if you are seeking or assisted suicide or euthanasia is being sought for you, how conscious are you before you can put pen to paper and sign off on a given legal medical document? Rather protracted areas, but they do tie in perhaps directly with life and death. Uh, what happens when the heart stops? What happens when the brain stops? The electric synapses, I believe, are the terms. I'm using these terms rather loosely. Again, this is anecdotal and perhaps seen as irreverent uh, by those who are believers, not practitioners, because they are not synonyms whatsoever. Believing and practicing are not synonyms, and they're easily conflated and synonymized, which is rather dangerous and misleading in and unto itself. However, seeing that we've crossed the 11-minute mark, this is life and death, what people speak about. Is it necessarily dogma, faith? I will not use the R word on purpose, but a few things that perhaps can make us overall healthier, more productive beings as we discuss these issues with ourselves and others directly and indirectly, linguistically and otherwise, verbally and otherwise. Wishing you all the best of health naturally. Thank you.